videoing of any of the proceedings. If you have a cell phone, it needs to be turned off and put away. Case of Commonwealth of Virginia versus Mustafa Al-Shazari. Mr. Al-Shazari is present with the counsel, Mr. Weiner. The Commonwealth is represented by Ms. Sammy and Ms. Buck. Ms. Weiner, counsel is before the board today for a number of motions. I count 10. I don't know whether or not everybody agrees with that number or not. If you don't, I need to know what it is, what else there is. All right, I have a motion to dismiss the indictments. These are, the ones I'm going to list now are the defendant's motions. Motion to dismiss the indictments with prejudice. Motion to eliminate to exclude dash cam portions. Motion to suppress and exclude statements. Motion to provide expert witness funds. A combined motion to provide investigator funds and motion for extension of time to file pre-trial motions. That cover all the ones there. That's good. And then for the Commonwealth's motions, I have a motion to admit prior crimes, wrongdoings, and/or acts. Motion to support. Motion for order regulating disclosure of juror personal information. A motion to eliminate regarding court spectators, and a motion to conditionally admit dash cam footage. I understand with regard to Commonwealth's motion regarding disclosure of juror personal information that the defendant does not object. Is that correct? And so what the Commonwealth is seeking is to under 19.2, 263.3 to prevent the disclosure of the name and home address of the juror who has been impaneled in a criminal trial. So I would send an order in that regard and find that there is good cause simply because of the agreement of the parties. For that, and I will enter such an order. Let's take up the defendant's motion to dismiss. And I understand, just so that you all know, I have read and reread your motions and the responses. My understanding is, with regards to this motion, Mr. Weiner, and certainly not trying to limit your argument, but that this is regarding the audio of the dash cam footage that's expected to be offered in that.
That's correct.
Right. Go right ahead.
And if it can be acceptable to the court, what I'd like to do first is just address some of the points the Commonwealth makes in their opposition, and then call it the court's vote.
What witnesses do we need in this situation?
Your Honor, I would request to be calling 3 witnesses. Investigator Mason, he was involved in removing an SD card I'm not sure if it's pronouncing the name correctly, I'm sure the comment was correct. She wrote a police report, affirmatively stating that there is audio, or there should be audio, that the audio capability was on. And then investigator Jerome had written in multiple sections, either in the police report or in his conversation with my client on the phone, continually referenced the dash camera and supposed alleged arguments, and never once mentioned a lack of audio. And those would be proven in the police call.
We're not going to get into a fishing competition. We'll I think it's appropriate, but we're not. Keep it narrow.
Certainly, Your Honor. We're not trying to engage in a fishing expedition. We're trying to determine, for example, why not occur. I first take it to the Commonwealth's point in that brief. First, the Commonwealth says, Your Honor, that none of the videos from the day of the crash appeared to ever have an audio. Again, as we will present through it, I don't believe the evidence is going to support that. That there's no evidence to support these claims that this dash cam would have audio, again, through the police report and the witness testimony I will be reading. Now, to the specific point about the standard and the arguments here, I want to make clear, it appears at certain points that the Commonwealth, I don't know if they're doing this intentionally or maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I want to make it very clear, under the standard that we're asserting here, we do not have to hold bad faith. A bad faith requirement only exists when we are trying to show that the evidence, it may or it potentially could be helpful. When it comes to the essential exculpatory evidence like this, bad faith is not required at all. The Commonwealth, the audio here is inculpatory and not exculpatory. And so that is, that would eliminate the relief that we are seeking. And simply put, that is simply the Commonwealth coming to this court and saying, well, if you accept our theory of the case, and, if you believe our version of the facts, then yeah, it's going to show what we hope to convince the jury of. But of course, their theory of the case, their version of the facts, is far from established here.
So I could do this, it's not up and running, I'm not getting inside a wall. So I'm going we'll take a break shortly.
Sure. And so all I just point out is that what we assert the audio would establish is that, and again, taking a step back, the Commonwealth theory of the case here is that my client, even before he got into the car, had a plan to murder Ms. Fontaine and her young child. The Commonwealth theory of the case involves the fact that he intentionally told the other children, don't come. I don't want you to come because, according to the Commonwealth, he's thinking he's going to murder his girlfriend and his girlfriend's daughter. He doesn't want to hurt the other kids. That's their theory of the case. And their theory of the case is that when they're in the car, they're having an argument, presumably about the reason why he, according to them, has been planning this murder, which has something allegedly to do with an ex-boyfriend. Okay? So according to the Commonwealth, they believe that this audio would demonstrate that they were having that conversation. We assert, and the evidence will establish that it's far from the case. The audio would simply establish actually that they're not arguing about anything related to that whatsoever. And the point would be, when the government found the audio, when they found the dash cam, I should say, and knew that there may be audio on it, at that point, they didn't know exactly what their theory of the case was. What they did certainly know is that information on this dash cam, given that it would happen right before the crash, absolutely could be exculpatory. Maybe could be exculpatory, but absolutely could be exculpatory. That's why they issue a search warrant for it. That's why they
Your Honor, I'll process that.
Your Honor, defense calls investigator Reese.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Trying to just cut to the chase here, can you, state, the first time when you were involved in this case, that you knew there was a dash cam?
Let me stop you. Just so that if this winds up in someone's court, please state it and in this case.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Champion, First Avenue, assistant investigator on the case.
Thank you, investigator, can you state the first time that you even became aware that there was a dash cam involved in this case?
I can see those conditions.
And do you know approximately what time that was?
I couldn't tell you.
Do you know, how did you determine that there was a dash cam involved?
Actually, there are several vehicles, we see a dash camera on the dash on the windshield.
When you say we, who's we?
Myself, investigator.
So you and investigators that were at the scene, you see the dash camera on the vehicle.
In the windshield,
What steps did you take after that?
in terms of,
The dash camera.
it was noted, and then for further, possible guidance of the dash camera for research.
So you obtained a search warrant?
I'm sorry,
Did you obtain a search warrant?
not that,
Okay. At any point did you move the dash camera from the vehicle?
not that.
When did you obtain a search warrant?
The day or days following.
And between the time you, that the crash occurred and you eventually obtained a search warrant, did you ever, or did anybody remove, the dash camera from the vehicle?
No.
Eventually, did you obtain a search warrant?
Yes.
And when you obtained the search warrant, did you then eventually remove the dash camera from the vehicle?
Yes.
Do you remember what day that was? Is it, do you remember the day exactly? Do you have usually a couple of days after, the crash, you obtained a search warrant and you got dash camera? And, were you the first individual to remove the dash camera from the vehicle?
Yes.
Can you explain to the court what you did exactly?
In terms of,
Removing the dash camera.
the vehicle had been opened up to remove the airbag control module. The dash camera on the windshield was removed from the windshield.
You removed it? How did you remove it?
Right here.
Was it mounted on anything?
It was stuck to the windshield.
How was it done?
That, I don't know, there were parts of glass, but they will still copy them. It's gonna work.
And when you removed it, what did you do next?
Photographed it and then, we'll take it back to my vehicle.
You took it back to your vehicle, what did you do then?
The SD card was moved, and just see if there was anything on the SD card. Saw what it was, and we just all did with the commentary.
Okay, so I want to focus on the portion you just mentioned. You said the SD card was removed.
Correct.
Did you remove it?
Yes.
What is an SD card?
It's, memory card, that's used to store data.
How did you remove the SD card?
Full fingers.
Can you be more specific? Did you reach into something to pull it out?
I can't remember if it was pushed in and it popped out, or it just came out like that.
When you took the dash camera and you see there's an SD card, and your testimony that all you did was you just took the SD card, right?
That's an SD card, correct.
Do anything to make sure that you were, well, let me ask this. Are you aware that removing an SD card from a dash cam like this could corrupt some of the information from the dash cam?
No, sir, there was no power to the camera.
Yeah, I'm not asking you about whether or not there's power, I'm asking you, are you aware that removing an SD card can corrupt information on the SD card if you're not removing it properly?
Not really yes or no question, because there's also situations that could lead to that corruption.
Please, answer.
Because typically what you're referring to is the power could corrupt that, like that, just like, if you have a jump drive computer and don't just safely eject, it could corrupt it. There's
And, what, steps did you take to make sure the dash cam was powered off?
Well, the power cord was separate from the camera.
Okay, are you aware that the dash cam could still be powered on even when there's no power cord in it?
There was no indication, no lights, nothing of power to be used.
Okay, so it's your testimony that you didn't believe it was powered on, you didn't see any indication. Are you also aware that, for example, well, let me ask you this, are you aware of the company that makes the dash cam?
Am I aware of the company?
Yes.
Either the company name or that a company made the camera.
The company name.
No, sir, not from that.
Does Rexus sound familiar?
Possible, I heard the name of the company, maybe myself.
REXING. Would it surprise you to know that Rexing manual states that if you remove an SD card while information is still processing in the dash camera, it could corrupt the evidence of the dash camera?
What's the underlying question, sir?
Would that surprise you to know that?
No.
And do you have any information or evidence that picture was not still processing in that dash camera when you took the SD card?
Like I said, sir, the power cord is separate from the camera. There's no lights or any indication that there's power to the unit. Thus, I know that will be actively recorded or stored on the camera.
So it's your testimony that if the power's off, there can't be any kind of data processing the SD card?
Well, most electronic devices certain power for operating, so
I'm not asking about operations, sir. I'm asking about processing of the SD card.
processing would be operations.
And do you, I'm just asking a specific question. Is it your testimony that when the power is off of the dash camera, it is impossible for information to be processed in the SD card?
To my knowledge.
To your knowledge. What informs the basis of your knowledge?
Allowed to use electronics.
Okay, do you have any expertise?
Not in terms of SD cards,
Correct.
not beyond the knowledge of the common person.
Okay. Gotcha. What did you do? I apologize. You had said that you took the SD card out and then you did something with it. What did you do with it?
The search went from the issue computer receivers actually files.
And how did that work?
There's an SD card slide, there's an SD card slide, order from showing this file.
And where did it show exactly?
Just one of the solid there was files on there, security video clips, call calls, turning off.
What did you do then with the SD card?
Put it back into the camera to secure it.
And did you, when you put it in your computer and saw the files, did it indicate whether or not there was audio on it?
I didn't even know that concern.
And then you put it back in the camera?
Correct, protected.
And then what happened next with the dash cam?
Upon conversation with the attorney's office, waiting for our second search warrant, the camera was placed into the police vehicle to keep the camera safe, which is also located at the impound lot next to the suspect vehicle, because they're all for it.
And then do you know what happened next with it?
It was placed in that vehicle, I left the impound lot, another search warrant was obtained, and then the camera was transported from there.
Pete?
To the camera, was transported
Where was it transported?
to Central District.
What happened after that?
Under that search warrant, it was, given, the camera given back to me, SD card was here removed, the videos were seen that uploaded to evidence.com.
Did you remove the SD card at the second time?
Correct.
Okay, and then you uploaded it to evidence.com?
Correct.
At that point, did you know that there was any audio missing or anything like that?
I don't remember hearing the audio files.
Okay. Did you note that anywhere?
I'm sorry.
Did you note that
I
anywhere?
don't recall.
But it is your recollection that when you played it, you did not hear audio.
I never heard the audio.
But you don't recall if you ever noted that.
I'm sure of that there it is, but I don't recall. I'll never been in recollection.
You would want to, if you did notice there was no audio, you would want to note that, so, right?
I'm not sure. I know it was told to Attorney's office and others, but there's no staff.
Did you tell them that?
Yes.
How did you tell them that, verbally or email? You don't know when you told them that?
That,
And you don't know what day that was?
I knew the day after the crash, but I don't know the years.
Do you know to this amount the SD card.
This matters.
Yes.
They are the attorney.
So I'm going to show you what we the identification is protected here. Does that appear to you to be a manual for the Rexing dash cam?
Objection to foundation.
And that's what it appears to be.
What's the objection to that question?
Your Honor, counsel has handed Sergeant Mason a pieces of paper purporting to be what counsel indicated. And he was really cross foundation. As far as I know, Sergeant Mason initially indicated that he didn't know if the dash cam was something else.
I'm allowed to go ahead. Objections overruled.
You can look at that, I'm just asking you, does it appear to be a manual for a Rexing dash cam?
It says recipe for user manual.
And again, when you removed the SD card, you didn't first ask yourself, well, hang on, before I do anything to this dash camera, I want to find a manual. You didn't.
No.
You just said, well, I have common experience with technology, so I'm going to use that common experience to just go about this the way I think.
Can you see that?
Yeah. What you did is, when you saw that there was an SD card there, you didn't try to consult a manual or an expert, you just said to yourself, I have common experience with technology, I'm going to trust that common experience.
I'm going to investigate.
I think it's probably argumentative as well, but go ahead. That's good. There's a statement objection.
When you didn't, let me re-ask the previous question real quick. You're not consulting him before you ask you, right?
Correct.
Would you turn to page 14 of that manual? You see where it says, removing the memory card. Before removing the memory card from your V3, you must first dismount it for safe removal. Do you see that?
Yes.
You don't even dismounting this, right?
In terms of the memory card,
Correct.
but this just says,
Yeah, I would object. I would just say it's the
Yeah, I'm not, first of all, Your Honor, I'm trying to demonstrate that this officer, taken without any knowledge of the repercussions of his action, this information doesn't even need to be accurate. It simply needs to demonstrate that he is not consulting reliable sources.
He's already answered that question. He said he did not consult any user manual before removing the SD card.
Well then, Your Honor, I would argue, manual which can be found online on Rexing's website would meet the hearsay exception, and this court can take judicial notice.
What is the hearsay exception?
The hearsay exception is it is a publicly available business record. And it has an issue of reliability. In addition to that,
Is that issue of reliability that was found on the internet?
it is found on Rexing's website, and the Commonwealth does not dispute that Rexing is this action.
Yes, Your Honor, I would object to that. Counsel was needing to give some action present in order to list this as a business record, and it is simply hearsay.
Your Honor, what I would further argue is that Rexing is a business outside of the state, and that, like the Commonwealth has done at the trial, they have had to issue a certificate of subpoena for an out-of-state witness. I believe this court can at least take this information into consideration, at the very least, in determining that there needs to be a follow-up hearing where some Rex could and testify to the fact that this information is accurate.
Why shouldn't someone here today?
Because by the time that counsel discovered this information, this hearing was too close to be able to issue the subpoenas to the out-of-state witnesses. also, Your Honor, what I would argue, again, I'm apologize for another hearsay exception, is that I don't actually believe that these are, meet the definition of assertion. A manual that is given or provided with respect to technology are not intended to be assertions within the normal definition.
It's hearsay, I'm not sustaining objection. The out-of-court statement is altered in court to the truth, is not asserted. You have the opportunity, if you wanted a continuance of this motion in order to subpoena election employees or custodian record, whatever is necessary, you could have done that. That is not been done. So I'm going to sustain the objection.
And again, Your Honor, I just want to, for the record, that I do not have the ability to share, in short notice of time.
When did you know?
72 hours ago, Your Honor.
72 hours ago, you mean what?
72 hours ago, I found this information.
And when did you file your motion?
A month ago, I believe.
But when we started this, you didn't say that you needed you didn't say, I need a witness, or I need a stipulation by someone, with regard to this manual, and we're proceeding forward.
I understand, Your Honor, if I could just confirm that for the record. I'm trying to make good use of the court's resources, and I believe that, number one, this motion to consider a person relevant area, number two, if the board finds that this information, does not meet hearsay exception, is not admissible, that for purposes of just this one issue, I would seek continuance on this one issue. We can put it forward with the motion on all the other issues.
And when is it that you plan to hold the hearing on this issue? We have to file in a little over a month. You're talking about people from out of state, you have to subpoena.
Correct, Your Honor, this was the basis for not continuing this hearing as it was. I suppose we could do, in terms of the court calendar and the council calendar, I'll do as flexible as possible.
You want to withdraw the motion for the time being and refile it some other time, so that there is ability to hear this before the trial, before the scheduled trial. We don't have any idea when these folks that you would subpoena are available.
Well, what I would say, Your Honor, is that the Commonwealth has subpoenaed them, so at the very least, we could conduct a very short hearing, it could take approximately 15 minutes, and on the day of trial, and go, is this your manual, is this what it says in this section? There are subpoenas.
We're going to have humans, jurors, sitting around waiting for this matter to go forward. There's opportunities to be heard today. So you want to withdraw your motion, refile it? I'm not telling you that I'll hear it.
Yeah, I'm not going to withdraw the motion.
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to withdraw the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you explain the protocol at this point in time, for the department times, so I know your comments and different things?
In general or overall?
What's the difference between?
I mean, I'm sorry, general or specific?
Specific to what?
You
You just asked me a question.
I'm aware, I'm trying
So
to,
I'm asking,
Re-ask your question, please.
when you say specific, what do you have in mind that's specific?
is it specifically in terms of dash cameras? Or specific in terms to cell phones, in
Do
terms
you have a
of computers?
dash policy?
No, it's a general overarching policy when it comes to electronics.
Okay, so then what is it?
Gather, as kind of like gathering the device and then give it to the digital forensics unit.
That's policy.
A short synopsis, without the general, as far as I can't quote you directly.
Do you have anything in the policy about removing information from the electronic devices?
Once again, that's all, sir.
Can you state whether or not there is any policy about removing it from the electronic device?
It will fall under the policy, which I just
policy about, for example, saying, don't remove cards in the manual or something like that.
That's why I literally just said it, the policy is to give the district.
And so, is it fair to say that you did not follow policy because you did more than that?
Yes, sir. Once again, that policy, that policy is a one-line policy that I wasn't aware of that time.
Okay, so you did not follow policy. And
Any other question?
I was just confirming.
Okay, so.
Can you confirm you did not follow policy?
I know, I later learned, correct.
No other questions? Ross?
Sergeant Mason, you initially responded up to the crash scene on Fortune Plaza. And when you arrived on scene, did you immediately notice the dash camera within the vehicle?
Not immediately, but while officers were the survey, correct.
Okay. And what did you observe about it specifically?
That was on the windshield, did appear to have any cabling going to it at that time.
Okay, do you know if there was any cabling around or near it?
There appeared to be several cables that went in the vehicle. There were several cables, like several cords, things like that. There's really a severed cable there.
You said a severed cable.
Yes, ma'am.
And how did it appear to be severed?
The end was broken off of it, so the wires were just kind of hanging there straggling.
And is this leading into the dash camera device itself?
It was laying down, but when we looked at the dash camera, there was no, you could see the end of like the electric plug. So two and two together.
And investigator, how long has you been on the dash unit before becoming sergeant?
8-ish years, 8-9 years.
And how long have you been a law enforcement officer?
This is going into what, 14, 15 years.
And have you had occasion throughout your career as a law enforcement officer to handle electronics as part of your investigation? Including in this case?
No.
Now, when you initially removed the SD card the first time, what was the purpose of that?
Just to see if there was anything on, just to see if the capture anything. That was actually working.
And it's correct, because at the time you didn't believe that it might have been working.
Correct.
And if it hadn't been working, it would be of no value, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, at any point, is it true that at any point, the first time and the second time that you removed the SD card and reviewed the traffic, April 5th, 2023, at any point did you hear any audio coming from any of the videos?
No.
Now, in regards to policy that council, isn't it true that the dash camera and the SD card were eventually sent to direct digital training? This is from, isn't it true that after you mentioned a time where the dash camera and the SD card were sent to the digital forensics unit for processing and analysis?
Yes, ma'am.
At any point, when the dash camera was in your possession, in your care, did you drop it?
No, ma'am.
Did you toss it?
No, ma'am.
Did you alter anything within it?
No, ma'am.
At any point, did you alter any of the files within the SD card when you looked at them?
No, ma'am.
That's all I have, Darna.
When you asked about the cable in the dash cam that was severed, that was just a charger, right? Charging cord?
That's the power cord, yes.
Alright. And you said you have common experience with technology. If you have a charging cord, and you remove the charging cord, it's not going to collect data.
Actually, I think it's good speculation.
She just happened to testify that he has years of experience.
Repeat the question, sir.
When you have a piece of the charging cord, you remove the charging cord, you don't have any reason to believe that that's going to corrupt data, correct?
No, that's not true.
Removing a charging cord is not going to corrupt data.
It could corrupt data.
Uh,
From the shock of losing power, things like that.
Shock of losing power.
Correct.
Can you explain what that?
Power is quickly removed, just like if you're on your computer and the battery dies, or if there's no battery coming above, and you're typing a Word document, per se, and the power goes out. When you log back in, that Word document may not be there, or the document, the file may not be where you had typed it from a last recovery, regular last recovery, something different. So that's a shock of losing the power to that device, just like like I said, you would if you're talking type of document, per se.
You're talking about a device losing power. I'm asking about removing a power cord. When you have a charger plugged into your iPhone, are you concerned when you remove the charger, your iPhone is going to lose data?
No, like battery.
Did you consult any manual to see that a Rexing dash camera would lose data from quote unquote shock of losing power?
No, sir.
You were asked, did you do anything differently in this case? And you said no, correct? So you always violate policy? And that's the argument. Agreed.
Next witness?
Yes, sir. I would call Pastor David. Please, I will swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give in this case before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
So then, please state your name for the record, please.
Master Detective Catherine Manis,
Please,
D-A-I-M-I-S, Your Honor. D as in zebra, A-I-M-I-S,
C or K?
with a K, sir.
how are you currently?
I'm detective in the Digital Forensics Unit with the Pennsylvania County Police Department.
Can you explain what your daily duties are in that report?
Most days I conduct examinations on computers, cell phones, and other electronic devices. We do forensic examinations as well as assisting on search warrants and assisting with evidence collection at certain times.
In this case, you recall at some point examining a dash cam.
I do.
Can you explain to the court that this process, how did you originally get this dash cam?
Investigator Drum had brought the dash cam to the lab, stating that there were some videos they wanted to recover, and he did mention there was some audio that they wanted to see if there was audio on these videos. It was in a box when I received it, and our process is we photograph the evidence, document any available information so we can see the model. If needed, we do research on it, and then conduct a forensic examination. Did you want me to testify about this item specifically or just generally? Okay. So in this case, I confirmed that the item was turned off. As Investigator Mason stated, there was a severed power cable. I did some research on the item to see if it had onboard memory or if it had any kind of, if it was only the card that was in it, and it was only the card. So I removed the photographed the card as well, so found all the identifying information I could find. I connected it through what's called a hardware write block device, which prevents any data from being written back to the card, and created a forensic image to then carve videos out of so that I wasn't removing anything or changing anything on the card.
And you said can you explain, first, why do you want to do research on it before tinkering with the device?
Well, if I've never seen this, I have a lot of experience with surveillance systems, cameras, and memory devices, but if I've never seen a particular device, I just like to know what I'm dealing with before I start doing anything with it.
Because if you start manipulating things on it before then, it can do
Potentially.
And when you did your research, what kind of sources did you consult?
Honestly, I Google it, I think in this case it was on Amazon, that I was able to see the specs on it. Sometimes I'll go to manufacturer websites, pull up manuals if I need to. In this case, the main thing I just wanted to know was if it had storage or if it was just, that's what's important.
Can you explain the difference between onboard storage and other types?
If it's onboard storage, it's built into the device, it's not something that I can remove. There's two different ways to do examinations. Like when I do examinations on cell phones, I can't remove the memory from that cell phone and image it separately. So when we deal with cell phones, we're doing live ice and we have to work while the device is on. Ideally, when you do a forensic examination, if you have a computer or a solid state memory device, which would be a memory card, you would remove it from the system, image it while the system is off, and that way you can ensure you're not making any changes to it. So I just like to know if I boot it up, what does it do? Is it going to see something on there? Is there going to be videos that are stored on there, even if I remove the card or not? I just like to know.
Gotcha. And I want to go back to the question about research when you said you look at Google and Amazon. Is it standard in your practice when trying to determine how to use technology or interpret technology, well, these kind of outside sources?
Yes.
Is it standard in your practice to, for example, go on Google and find a manual for a piece of technology?
Yes.
So if someone were to go on Google and find a manual from the website of that piece of technology, is that a reliable source of information?
It can be. I wouldn't say 100% because some of these devices are manufactured in other countries, that they're translated oddly sometimes. But generally speaking, yes, the manual is a good indication.
I'm going to show you what is previously identified as the limit one. Can you just look at that and tell me if that appears to be found online for a Rexing dashboard?
It does.
Did you consult anything like this when you were doing your research?
I don't recall if I looked up the manual specifically or just looked up the specs on a website.
But if you found that, you would consult it, right?
Yes.
I would move to admit that that is important.
Just saying that lack of foundation
This witness, who works for the government, who is part of the foundation of government overlay, and the examination of the dash camera has just testified that this is a reliable source. This is how people in her experience determine how to interpret and use these technologies.
It's still hearsay. I would, however, like it to be marked for evidence, so that if there's a report that looks at this, they would have that available to them. Sure. All right, so let's have it marked, but not yet.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a copy in case you need to refer to it?
Well,
Because this is going to be part of the record.
yeah, the only other copy that I have that probably includes the Colorado Senate copy.
All right, so why don't you take this, I'll have it marked, and then we'll forward it. Is this the one that you want marked for the record?
Yes, sir.
We look at it, make sure it has all the pages that one has.
I believe I have it all.
All right, we'll make sure that there's no problem with it later on. Go ahead and have it marked, defense exhibit 1, it is not yet admitted.
In your experience, do you know what it means? So let's go back to, you said you took basically like a duplicate image of the device, correct?
Yes, sir. It's a bit-for-bit copy of the information on the memory card.
Okay. And then what did you start analyzing the information inside of it?
Yes, I processed it using forensic software called Magnet Axiom, which is the same software that created the forensic image card. So it just looks for files that it recognizes and presents them back.
Did you examine it? Did you examine the videos?
Some of them, yes.
Any time did they ever have any sound?
Some of the older did have sound. I don't remember how far back, but I wanted weeks or months prior. There were videos that had sound, and then there were more recent videos that did not have sound.
The more recent videos that did not have sound, how recent are we talking about the day of the car crash?
Yes, the day of the car crash, the ones that I saw from that day did not have sound.
Did you see any videos from before that day that did not have sound? Did you do an examination on the dash camera to see if the sound was enabled on the device?
I did, I used the cable that I had in the lab to plug it into power to power it up, which is safe to do when you have the memory removed from it. I checked the settings just to see, because again, investigators would see if there was sound on this video. I checked the settings for certain information, including if the setting was on to record sound, and it was.
Which means that at the time of the accident, the video should have, working properly or not correctly for whatever reason, should have been recorded.
Yes,
Do you remember writing the police report?
yes,
And do you recall discussing whether or not there was an audio track?
yes, I
Whether
did.
it was a what?
An audio track?
Yes.
Can you explain what an audio track is?
It's exactly that. It's just a sound file that's attached to a video. Video will play sound.
Okay. But if a device has an audio track, does that mean it will always have sound?
Not necessarily. If you had it muted or something like that, then it might not play a sound. Or if there was no sound, you might see a black line.
And this is an audio track, correct?
Yes.
What did you do when you realized that the device had sound turned on to be enabled and had an audio track but you could not hear it sound? What did you do?
I used some other software to process the file through and just see if there was a track on there that I just wasn't hearing for whatever reason. I opened it in a program called Media Info that gives detailed information about files like that. That told me that it did have an audio track, so I processed it in another program. I think it was Audacity. To see if there was information on the audio track, and again, there was an audio track, but it was just flat, which shows that there's no sound.
Do you have any explanation as to why the device would have sound enabled, have an audio track, but not have sound?
I have an educated theory, but I can't say for sure.
Can someone corrupt a dash cam and the corruption cause a lack of sound?
If you're referring to specifically what Investigator Mason did, given his testimony that it was off and he removed the memory card, I don't think that corrupted, no.
I'm not specifically asking that.
Okay.
I'm just asking you in general.
In general, if there was something like a power surge or the device wasn't functioning properly, yes, that could corrupt information.
But in your profession, are you aware of whether or not candidates improperly could corrupt the device?
It could.
Whatever.
Morning, Detective Damon. When you came in possession, I believe it's item 22, the dash cam in this case, can you describe how that dash cam was observed by you?
How do you mean?
What did it look like to you? Was there any damage to the dash cam?
I don't recall that there being extensive damage to the dash cam itself. I do know the board was broken.
And when you mean broken, like severed looking?
Severed.
Okay. And what, if any, effect does a severed cord have on the dash cam itself?
It would not be receiving power.
Okay. And you also indicated that you observed Sergeant Mason's testimony in court today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he testified essentially that he removed the SIM card from the dash cam initially when he located the dash
What you
cam.
said was SD card. I don't know whether a SIM card and SD card are the same.
You're right, it was an SD card. I'm going to rephrase my question. First of all, is an SD card and a SIM card the same?
No.
Okay. So you heard Sergeant Mason testify that correct?
It was a micro SD card.
Okay, then what is an SD card?
Actually, I don't know what the SD stands for, but it's a solid state form of memory. It just stores information.
Okay. And, is that information recorded from the dash cam?
Yes.
Okay. And, you heard testimony that Sergeant Mason put that Z card in the county computer.
Yes.
Why wouldn't that action affect any of the audio on the SD card?
You would have to process it through some kind of video or audio editing program to do that. And I don't believe that Investigator Mason would have done that or been able to do that.
Okay. And, he got a county computer, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have access to alter or change audio on the county computer?
As an end user, no. Me as a advanced user, I don't use county computer for things like that. We're off the county network because of the type of work that we do. But typically the end users in the county accounts, they lock down quality kind of software like that.
Okay. And, you also heard testimony from Sergeant, Mason that he also, after executing second search, the dash cam video itself, he, removed the SD card and uploaded all the videos.
Yes.
Removed, essentially all the videos from the SD card and uploading them to evidence.com, would that affect the audio? No. Okay. And again, he did that on his county computer, so would he have had access to all of Okay. What if any effect does the crash itself have on this device, the dash cam?
It could, the most likely, if it was going to have any effect at all, it could just,
Ma'am, from your experience as a digital forensic evaluator, from your experience, what effect, if any, would a crash have on the dash cam?
but it would either lose power and turn off, or there could be some kind of power surge where, again, you have energy inappropriately going to ground and there's a short, which would potentially just fry it, and it wouldn't work anymore.
Okay, and that short, could that alter the audio?
The audio specifically, no. It's saying it would probably just fry the card and it wouldn't work.
And, going back to your analysis, you indicated specifically, Investigator Drum requested that you evaluate the dash cam to locate any audio from the day of the crash, correct? And, he specifically used two different ways to locate that audio, is that correct? What were the ways you tried to locate the audio on the dash cam?
Well, the first way was simply by playing the file in the VLC, just a standard media player, to see if it had any audio. When I didn't hear any, I opened it in another program called Mo to see if I could determine if it had an audio track. And when I saw that it did, I opened it with, I believe it was Audacity, but it's a program to analyze sound files. And again, it showed that there was a track, but there was no sound.
Okay. And when you say there's a track, so that meant the SD card has the capacity to record sound, correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay. But you were also indicated that the track, the sound waves appeared flat. What does that mean?
So when there's any kind of sound, I mean, if you've ever seen, like, on your computer, if you test your mic when you're getting on Zoom or something like that, and you'll pop into it and you see, like, bars or the waves going up and down. If there's any sound, you'll see waves going up and down. If there's no sound, it's flat.
And for the day of the crash, April 5th, 2023, were you able to locate any audio?
From the day of the crash, no.
And then you also indicated the defense asked you a question about the dash cam having access to sound but not being able to record the sound. Specifically, you was referring to the day of the crash at April 5th. What was your fear of why we couldn't hear the sound for the day of the crash?
Objection.
From her training and experience, judges on
You're qualified as expert.
addressing qualified as an expert.
You want to, she's not your witness, you're trying to qualify her as a witness, false defamation, or as expert with a false defamation.
Judge, I can ask some foundation questions on the qualification. Ma'am, what's your current position?
I'm a master detective in the digital forensics unit.
Okay, and how long have you had that position?
9 years.
And have you ever been qualified as an expert in digital forensic examination?
Yes.
And how many times, ma'am?
Once.
And have you had training in the area of digital forensic examination?
Yes.
Okay. And can you explain that training?
I have been through a company called SANS to receive certifications on computer and cell phone forensics. I have certifications from Cellbrite in cell phone forensics. And if you refer to my multiple trainings in different areas of forensics,
And what is digital forensics?
it's a method of collecting information in a way that can be presented in court that is forensically sound and prevents unneeded alterations in data.
And what can you extract digital data from?
Lots of devices, computers, cell phones, surveillance systems, credit card skimmers, memory cards, SD cards, flash drives, hard drives, pretty much anything that stores memory, you can get something off of.
And can you explain the general problem examination, specifically the dash camera?
For a dash camera, again, we would normally receive it in a sealed package in the lab. I would take photographs of the sealed package as well as the contents of the package, document the identifying information, do research on the model if needed, and remove the photographic SIM card, create a forensic image of the SIM card to work off of, and carve files to work with.
And how many forensic examinations have you done before?
Thousands.
So just to come out, offer as an expert in digital forensic examinations, which include dash cameras.
Plenty of people up here. There's a number of people that have come into the courtroom since I made this announcement earlier. There's not to be any use of any cell phone or video or audio recording device while court is in session. If you have a cell phone or audio or video, it must be turned off and put away.
What, you asked before the question about a theory that you have, correct? What is it in your expertise that gives you the ability to develop theories?
Well, in this case, I have extensive experience with electronics. I've taken and I have training in micro soldering and how boards on cell phones work, which is where the electricity component comes into play. And I know from experience and training that if a short is created, that's what can corrupt things.
Okay, and you had testified previously that maybe saying as an expert, you consult, you look for your sources.
I do sometimes, yes.
Regular question.
Yeah, I would object on, I don't believe that she may have laid the foundation for being an expert in digital electronics. I don't know, proving the theories, the circumstances of this case, as to why.
Okay, she'll be allowed to testify as a, tell me what you want to call that.
It would be digital forensic examination expert, which includes dash cameras.
She's allowed to testify as such.
And I'm going to go back to the hypothetical on examination initially. We initially asked you regarding the dash cam device. And if it had access to audio, what if, could you explain why on the day of the crash there wasn't
Objection outside the court of law. The expertise. She was qualified as an expert in examining electronics.
It doesn't exactly answer your question. The forensic examination part of the dash cam.
During the examination, she would determine whether in fact it has a audio recording or not, as opposed to coming up with a theory as to why it might not have had one.
Well, that's part of her training and experience, Judge. She does forensic examinations.
Sir, please sit down.
I have an objection.
Sit down or leave the courtroom. Thank you. You can testify about the knowledge of the device or examination of this device and what within a reasonable degree of certainty, that this is what happened. If that's the case, it does what? But if not, just coming up with a theory, I'm not going
When you were examining dash cam items 02, the SD card, what did you notice about the color of the color of the video from the data?
I don't recall anything unusual about it,
Was there anything off in terms of color?
not to my recollection.
And, what is the impact of a hardware defect have on the audio? Just asking.
It could prevent it from properly recording audio.
Okay, and what is a hardware defect?
Just something's not working correctly within the device.
And could that also record audio a couple days before the incident?
Yes, electronics can fail in multiple ways.
And what are some of the reasons electronics can fail?
Just simply some component stops working. It's not receiving power for whatever reason, or there's set, or it just, for whatever reason, a chip goes bad and it's not receiving information. There's multiple reasons it can fail.
When there's a hardware defect, could it just stop working at any point?
Yes,
And could it record some with audio and then some without?
yes.
Person answer. No further questions, Julie.
You testified previously that based on investigator Mason's testimony, at that time you removed the SD card, you don't believe that there would have been an audio corruption, right?
As a result of that, yes.
But if he was wrong about how he was removing the SD card, it could result in audio corruption, correct?
I don't see how it can specifically result in an audio corruption.
You don't see that removing the SD memory card from a device improperly could result in a corruption of audio?
Not that I can see the file is not working at all, or the entire memory card is corrupted, but I have never seen that happen before with just part of the file.
Someone have a cell phone on?
It's outside in one of the conference rooms, Your Honor.
Would it surprise you, you mentioned previously that you consult online sources, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you stated that it is normal to consult the name, correct?
At times when needed, yes.
Would it surprise you to find out that Rexon states in their manual that removing the SD card improperly could corrupt audio? Would that surprise you?
Should I object out that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Would it surprise you if Rexon says in their manual that removing the SD card improperly could corrupt data or audio?
No, it would not surprise me.
Are you aware of the policy with officers, removing SD cards or removing components of electronics? Are you aware of that policy?
Yes, sir.
And are you aware that Mason violated the policy?
I'm going to be objecting out of this case.
To be clear, sir, removing the SD card was not the problematic part of the general order. It was the Windows County computer. They are allowed to remove components if needed and package them. It happens quite often.
Where is the policy does it say they're allowed?
I don't have the policy in front of me, sir.
And just to clarify, was your testimony that the power surge would not just drive the audio, it would drive the video? Yes.
Needed for any other? Is this witness needed for any other, parts of the motion?
There are two maybe, so you ask them.
I don't think it was,
Almost there?